panel, Marc Lamont Hill, Columbia professor and host of Our World with Black Enterprise, and the Griots, Alexis Stodshill. Good to see you. Good morning.
Be here.
Good morning. So, hearing from this juror, she said Trayvon Martin probably started the fight. She was convinced that it was George Zimmerman's voice that we heard on that 911 call, that he felt he had to protect himself. Mark, what was your reaction when you heard the explanation of this juror?
It wasn't surprising. That piece of it wasn't surprising, because to arrive at a not guilty verdict, you almost have to have that kind of logic. What was more stunning to me was her saying he shouldn't have gotten out of the car. He used bad judgment. It seems to me that all of those things were factors that really make him culpable. He initiated an interaction that led to the death of a young boy. It seemed to me that they were overly, or at least she was overly sympathetic to George Zimmerman in a way that was almost baffling.
Yeah, because she talked about what had happened in the neighborhood previously, and she also told Anderson Cooper that she didn't think that this was about race. I want to play that part of it.
I think if there was another person, Spanish, white, Asian, if they came in the same situation that where Trayvon was, I think George would have reacted the exact same way.
Why do you think George Zimmerman found Trayvon Martin suspicious then?
Because he was cutting through the back. It was raining. He said he was looking in houses as he was walking down the road, kind of just not having a purpose to where he was going. He was stopping and starting. But, I mean, that's George's rendition of it.
A lot of people noted, Alexis, that she called him throughout this interview by his first name. But also, she said race was never discussed in that room. What does that tell you?
Well, that was something that the jurors were actually instructed to do. The judge actually barred people from discussing race or thinking of this as a racial case. So they were actually following the instructions of the judge, which is something that's been a constant complaint from a lot of people. The judge also gave the jurors many instructions, and one of the reasons that the jurors said in this interview that they had to find him not guilty was because of those instructions. They were trying to match the judge's instructions with all the evidence which they found disorganized, and all the options that they had for finding him guilty of second-degree murder or manslaughter. And one of the things the judge also said was that they cannot consider race. So she was really following those instructions. But one of the other things that was very interesting is that Rachel Jeantel, in her interview on CNN as well.
Well, let me play that. You bring that up because she said exactly the opposite, that when George Zimmerman said effing punks, it was racial. Here, let me play that.
It was racial. Let's be honest. Racial. Trayvon was white and he had a hoodie on, would that happen? Because that was around 7 o'clock or something. That's around that people walk their dogs, people stay outside.
And it's really interesting to me that one of the things that went viral, and I mean, the internet was ablaze this weekend, but one of the things that went viral, as I'm sure you saw, Mark, was a sketch of Martin Luther King Jr. with a hoodie on.
Absolutely. And I appreciated that sketch because of what it reminded us of is this idea that anyone could be Trayvon. That what George Zimmerman saw was not some young punk. He didn't see someone who may have been raiding houses. He saw a black body that he immediately saw as suspect and ultimately worthy of lethal force. That's what was scary to me. The fact that they weren't talking about race in that jury room is also scary to me, because they should have. And yes, the judge gave instructions not to. I think you're absolutely right about that, Alexis. But for me, the problem is that the prosecution didn't weave a narrative from the beginning that would force them to think about this in racial terms. Because even if we don't use the language of race, we still smuggle in the tone and tenor of race by the way we frame and construct Trayvon Martin.